What's up, guys? It is That Pan again. I'm here again with another video, and today we're going to be looking at our second round of Genesis War. This was a crazy fight. I'd even call it an upset with how crazy it was and how unexpected our win was. To start off the video, we are going to be looking through the alliances, ours being at 6.7 billion. I don't know what we registered at, probably around the same might that we're at right now, or we were at right here. Then there's Nelly at 12 billion might. Pretty sure they registered lower. If I were to wager, it'd be 9 to 10 billion. They could tell us. And honestly, that was such a massive gap on us, which I wasn't really sure how we'd fare. I did come in the matchup kind of confident, but I wasn't sure. And honestly, in the first round of the zombies, we did perform pretty well. And then we ended up seeing them in the second round, and we 1,000,000% thought we were going to lose. And I'm going to tell you guys how we actually won this. But then there's MGRZ, and honestly, these guys at around 7 billion might were insane. I got to give them a round of applause. They honestly were crazy on the field, way more than expected. And then here are our allies. NWAF, they were around 8 billion might. Not sure where they registered with, but I'm guessing it was around the might they're here right here now with, which is 8.4 billion. And honestly, they had really good field presence. We saw them in the previous round. We were impressed, and we were like, all right, we will ally with you guys. We actually almost allied with Nelly, which is kind of I feel kind of bad about, because I reached out to Nelly and I was like, yo, you guys want to ally? And they said yes, but by the time they actually responded, we had already made out an agreement with NWAF, who actually reached out to us. So, it's just like a feels bad moment, but they took it really well. And honestly, I got to say, I respect everybody in this fight. This was a crazy good fight. Honestly, really loved it. And yeah, let's kind of get into all the commentary here. So to talk about our goal here, our main goal was actually to make it to the last ring. And normally we actually do not care to make it to the last ring, especially given this bracket was, extremely strong. Like, this Warzone overall was kind of stacked, I'm gonna be honest. But we normally don't care to make it to the last ring, but we did have Noble, who was a visitor here. He's a pretty solid whale. He's a friend of mine. And I think he wanted to join for a red chest, ideally. So I was like, you know what, guys, let's aim for the last ring. We actually never have made it there. We usually get war zones where we're punching upwards, so we usually lose in round 2 almost every single time. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but it is just a part of the game. We don't really stress about it. But yeah, if you do make it to the last ring, you are guaranteed at least 2 red chests, which you can rank 4th and still get those. And we gave one of the merit chests to Noble, who graciously gave us his presence here, fought really hard as well. I want to give him that. If he was he was a field monster in this case. And I did feel a little bit bad, because I'm gonna be honest, I felt like we underperformed, which I kind of expected. We honestly have just been really bad on resources lately. Our fights have been very intense. We had a crazy AR. Our island raid wasn't too crazy, but it was still, a little bit intense near the end, which burned through some of our resources going into the next event. And honestly, me and my friend Kaz have been making a ton of accounts just to be able to upkeep the resources, because we want to be able to continue fights like these and actually be able to compete more, because we were struggling on the field. We weren't able to compete how we wanted to in the zombie fights. We were very passive. Some of our players were getting deaths on the field, full hospitals, and it made even our fights in the the progressing kind of round, and even in this round during the middle fight, much worse than it really could have been. We could have been competing more on the field, doing a lot more, and a lot of our players just weren't capable of doing that. So we are kind of working on making sure we're able to do that, given that we are fighting in a lot higher brackets now. Usually the top of Elite Warzone, which, does have quite a few heavy hitters, which we appreciate. We find these to be really good brackets and really crazy good fights. So can't really complain. So I do want to say we felt kind of bad for our allies here. We honestly were trying our best to make sure we're putting in proper support here. Given honestly, I feel like we were very weak in comparison, especially in the round 2 zombie fights. We were just trying to do our best to make sure we are able to pull our weight, which honestly, I feel kind of conflicted about, because I do think we made a big sacrifice in the field to obtain one of the commander zombies, for example, to not give the enemy a super weapon, and that ended up zapping a lot of our presence on the field in the next, not the next round, but during the actual middle fight itself, right? So it's do you want to be able to fight properly when mid opens, or do you want to fight over chainsaws, or not chainsaw zombies, but whatever the zombies are called, right? And these zombies end up giving you actual points towards the event, plus they give you super weapons, which can potentially impact your game. And we didn't want to give it to the enemy, because if you guys don't know, the commander zombies, for example, which are the ones that drop the actual super weapon, they give you 4,000 points, that you would normally get from capturing, let's say, defense stations, science hubs, or whatever the case. They give you 4,000 points, and then the smaller zombies give you, I think, 700 or something each. So these do actually impact your chances of winning, which we were trying our best to, win here. And yeah, we kind of went in here, we saw the difference in numbers, and we were like, F us, right? And honestly, I think we should have backed up here, but we kind of egoed. We were trying to just play our role here. This was like, I saw this and I was like, no. I cried. I had just micro healed my hospital and I was like, all right, time to sacrifice. We did want to make sure our players were going to get the commander chainsaw zombie. We didn't want to give it to Nelly here. And MG was doing a lot more than we expected. We honestly expected MGRZ not to go as ham as they did. They went crazy on the field. And this actually made our job a lot harder because they actually held up our allies who we were expecting to be able to just slap them across, right? Because, at 7 billion might, I'm not saying they're like going to be a bad group, but honestly, we expected them not to perform as crazy as they did on the field. They did insane, and I got to give them props for that. But, they obviously that was like a big it was a big upset for us, and we were kind of having a lot of trouble here. We do end up getting the super weapon at least, though. We managed to kind of escape back to our bases, try to come in for a little bit of support here, but we're not able to do a whole lot. A lot of us are kind of close on hospital, just trying to intimidate these guys and run them back, but they do not care. They just keep pushing. They're like, come on, we want the smoke. We want the smoke. Come get it. By the way, I just want to say big props as well to our allies in WAF. Not only did they fight hard, but honestly, I got to say I appreciate them because honestly, they are 1,000,000% the reason we actually made it to the next round. I want to let you guys know what happened in the leadership chat. I had messaged and I said, all right, we're probably going to lose this. Or I said something along the lines of, yeah, this is, if things look rough, it is what it is. We want to help you guys win at the very least because, at the end of the day, we thought NWAF deserved to go to the next ring. So we weren't like gonna complain about being sacrificed here, right? And just being used as a pawn. We didn't really care. We were like, all right, you guys deserve it, more than us, honestly. You know what I mean? Like you guys have more fighting power. You guys deserve the win. You guys deserve to get to the next ring and potentially win in that ring. So we were willing to lose and we were willing to just kind of, help them to the best of our ability. These guys literally said, you get first, Science Hub hold. We'll try to fight back into, not NWF, but we'll try to fight back MG or whatever. And they wanted to kind of come around the side. And the fact that they allowed us to hold Science Hub as long as they did, they were literally in 3rd or 4th place for the event, right? For most of the event. And they literally could have potentially lost this round by allowing us to perform how we did or like holding what we did. And I mean, there's still the potential that they would have just taken everything on our side and then like instantly got back in second and been like, okay, well, we can't win together. But they said they wanted to win together. And, I just really appreciated them for that. I really appreciated them letting us hold Science Hub and like trusting us with it and like potentially willing to risk their loss, letting us hold that and holding our defense stations as well. Like we were first in points, and I was like, I was surprised, and I was like, dude, I hope these guys don't lose. Like I really hope they end up winning this. You know what I mean? Because I would feel so bad, but they do end up pushing into MG over here, and they honestly are very successful. I think their biggest kind of win here was their overwhelming field presence. If they weren't as overwhelming on the field here and able to like kind of control around this tower, they might have lost because popping this tower was everything. If they couldn't pop this tower, they wouldn't be able to get into the other side of the territory because they needed this tower to be able to connect to the like Science Hub and stuff, right? Because if you for example, we can actually attack up mid, right? Even though we're not connected with towers, we can attack on the left side, but that's because we have the Science Hub on the right side, which our allies didn't have, so they couldn't even attack like the defense stations or nothing. They needed one of those towers, and if they had a tower that connected to that side of the map, they could basically attack everything. They could attack the Science Hub, they could attack the defense stations, etc. But without that, or without the Science Hub, they couldn't do that. So that was kind of their biggest qualm, and they were kind of struggling in that regard. So them taking MG's tower was literally everything towards us being a double win here. And honestly, if Nelly won, we wouldn't have had any issues with it. They were still really strong. They overwhelmed us. They had better field presence. I think our biggest, honestly, like upside was our actual whale presence. Like we had just better rally captains. I'm gonna be honest. Like we had like even their strongest rally was in infantry, and I think this actually was like the detriment for them, or at least a detriment of sorts. And the reason I say this is because Genesis War is a very fast-paced event. You want to be able to deal damage quickly. You want to be able to drop stuff quickly. Time is of the essence. Being able to get points in as much time as possible is of the essence. So if you take longer, let's say popping a tower or popping a defense station, which is actually, for example, they rallied our defense station and their infantry rally, obviously, we can't, our counter rally isn't going to shred or anything, which is kind of an upside for them. But realistically, they're not popping it in like fast speed, whereas if they had a range rally, they maybe would have popped that like far sooner, right? And that's like one of the biggest downsides to like infantry maining and like an event like Genesis War. I mean, obviously, there's also upsides like being able to garrison much better. But you guys get my point, right? Like I think this honestly was like one of their biggest downsides because they just weren't able to put up quick damage like they needed to. We were trying to do our best to help our allies, not only by maybe drawing MG's attention, which is why we actually started rallying their defense stations, make them start reinforcing it, maybe swarm out our rallies, maybe put some attention up there, and then give them free room on the tower to kind of push. We also had like moments where we were trying to take Nelly's attention, which we didn't even have field presence really. So we would have to like rally, or we'd have to swarm their tower, right? And start forcing their main whales to kind of give up Science Hub or give up mid and fighting over it to come kind of fight us off and prevent us from popping their tower, popping their defense station, and preventing them from earning more points or whatever the case. So we were really doing our best to help here, but we weren't able to do enough, or ideally enough to what we wanted to. I do want to say we honestly should have probably lost this. I think one of Nelly's honestly biggest losses here was allowing us to go hard on the offensive. And even though, for example, they might have swarmed out our rallies or something, we were able to just carry that momentum and force them to play on the more defensive, right? We just kept going on that because we knew that they were going to keep focusing like this, or they were going to keep fighting like this as long as we kept up this momentum. The longer we drag out this fight, the more advantageous it is for us. The longer we drag out this fight, the less pressure they're able to put on us, the better the trades we're going to get, and the less pressure they can actually put on our allies who are going to be trying to work their way up to take Science Hub, which actually ends up happening, and they successfully do that, which we were so happy to see. You know what I mean? Like I was literally so happy. Like I honestly appreciated these guys so much. We were like, hey, if we see these guys in the next ring, we're literally only playing to help these guys win, because they literally were the reason that we got to the last ring. Like them letting us hold the Science Hub was literally the reason we made it to the last ring. I got to give all the credit to our allies. Like NWAF, you guys are the goats if you're watching this. By the way, you guys don't see this a lot, but one thing we are actually doing a lot, and I don't show the reports because this was such a crazy fight. I didn't really have time to show them. We were getting crazy good trades, especially on the tower. We kept rallying their tower. We kept kind of drawing them back to it, to swarm out a rally, send counter rallies, whatever the case. And then we had nobles sending rallies at their defense station, which would either force them to swarm it or just kind of watch it and kind of hold it down or whatever the case. And maybe go more into the defensive. Whatever the case, we were just doing our best to kind of hold these guys down. And a lot of these trades were actually really good. I will say one issue that we were facing with was like we kept sending so many range rallies that our fillers were actually like burning out. That was one really big issue we had, having two range rallies, right? Because, obviously Big D's a range main. Noble ideally sends range. I mean, he had his infantry in the tower, whereas Big D had his infantry in the defense station. So even if one of these guys wanted to send an infantry rally, they'd have to take their main infantry hero, like their armaments and stuff, and swap it around, which, when you're garrisoning with it, it's like, that's not really the greatest choice unless we're like swapping to a range garrison or maybe our rider garrison, which even then, like our rider garrison was in Science Hub as well. So like we were literally in like such a predicament. I also want to say, I think it's like, I'm not mentioning it enough, but MG literally were insane, guys. I want you guys to know, like, these guys were absolute powerhouses in the field. They performed phenomenally, given their size and like kind of the whale gap, because I do think that's like underestimated as well, or understated. They were big, but they didn't have like crazy big whales to the same extent like these other teams had, like even us, like us, Nelly, and like NWAF. I think they had like a lot more fueled raw power, and that's like kind of where they had their disadvantage at. If they had like more whale power, they probably could have, I wouldn't even say win, but they could have held out and potentially held their tower down. Even like, maybe cut these guys off trying to push up mid, because they actually were trying to push up mid and make motions and stuff, and MG was maybe burning out because NWAF just has like a lot more whale power in the field and stuff. They would try to come up like, you see how Nelly and NW are fighting right here. They would try to come up behind and start cutting off people, cutting off marches and stuff. And that's like one issue these guys are facing, right? Which is also why we were trying to draw Nelly's attention back, because we're like, hey, if we get them too much free room, NW is going to literally be fighting on two sides. They're going to be defending their tower, going in the offensive, and once they actually get Science Hub, they're still going to be defending that. And I mean, you'll even see here, once they capture the Science Hub, finally, which it took them a while, I think we also try to send a rally in here to help them. But they do end up capturing the Science Hub. I think they swarm it out maybe right here, or yeah, they swarm it out right here. But literally, Nelly starts swarming the science hub and stuff with the rally and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like really painful. It was painful to watch, painful to experience and stuff. And they were literally so busy trying to fight off MG and come up mid as well to fill this and field fight it. So we were just trying to like draw as much attention away from it as possible, which was really hard just because we had like literally no field presence at some point. Like we just died. We just died on the field. Could do almost nothing. And I mean, you even see here how they're swarming it. It's painful, guys. It's a painful fight. But I do want to thank our enemies. I want to thank our allies. Like I said, I know I've said it, but like this was such a great fight. I honestly had so much fun. Even given our lack of resources, which we are working on, guys. I know I mentioned this in my last video, but we are. I do plan to stream this island raid, potentially just making some accounts because we are me and my R4 are making accounts to just provide our our main whales. So we might do some of that. Might maybe do a little bit of a watch party. We'll kind of see. Also, by the way, you see a counter rally here. This infantry rally is so damn tanky, dude. It's not dying, bro. It's not dying. We need a swarm for this, but like the amount of like tankiness on that infantry rally is nuts, right? Like we're just not gonna be able to drop it with a counter rally. Far from enough. And it does make for perfectly holding up and being able to like swarm. Honestly, I know Peterson isn't really an optimal defender normally, but given the situation and given like the circumstances, this probably was the best kind of garrison they could use because they wouldn't have been able to hold it with Chasey. They wouldn't have been able to fill it properly. Maybe Rygor or something would have worked, but I think the heals from Peterson were exactly what they needed. Even if it wasn't trading optimally, it did get them the win. I mean, you do see here, we're swarming the tower, we're swarming the field, trying to push. Nelly comes down, we kind of back up here, and then we kind of try to reinitiate these fights. We're just trying to pull them, we're not really trying to win here, we're just trying to pull them and aggro them and all that kind of stuff. But I do think by this point, we kind of had the win in the bag. This was kind of a done deal. It was crazy. And yeah, I mean, the video is kind of coming to an end. We will actually super weapon kind of anchor somebody, and I felt a little bit frustrated because we actually had a base. There were two bases, right? There was one with 700 million steel, and there was another with like 700 million food and wood. And we ended up anchoring the guy with 700 million steel. We could anchor the other guy, but we were like kind of rushed and we didn't want them to teleport. So we kind of just anchored one of them, and they were both T6. And it was like, no, we could have gotten the juicier loot. I know 700 million steel is kind of comparable to the food and wood, but like we were hurting on food and wood over steel. I'm gonna be honest. Especially with like these little accounts we have, like they have less troops. So they're only able to gather like oil right now, and they're only able to gather steel. So it does make it easier for us to kind of have an abundance of these resources over like food and wood. So it's like, it is what it is. We're working on it, guys. We're working on it. So hopefully the fights here become more exciting after we do get these farms up and stuff. And yeah, I mean, this is great. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a great day or night, though. I will see you guys in the next video. And that is about it. Peace out.